Hey, my name's Lauren Teresa. I'm a former trauma therapist and LCSW, and I don't practice anymore, but I do like to help people. And I talk about frugality, minimalism, retiring early, being a single mom, friendship. I talk about a lot of things, but minimalism and frugality have always been sort of a part of my adult life. In 2008, I read the book Your Money or Your Life by Vicki Robin and Joe Dominguez. And I also got really into Mr. Money Mustache a few years later. I also read the book You Can Buy Happiness and It's Cheap Too. And it was about a woman who quit her day job after saving up for a little bit. She had a tiny house built on wheels and she basically drove around the country for 2 years writing the book and just her adventures. And then, she published the book, made money off the book, and just talked about how, like, when she packed up her house and she got rid of everything, that relief that came over her. And I feel that way sometimes about all of my stuff. I sometimes think, like, that you need to declutter or become a minimalist when maybe the idea of, like, a fire not harming you, but like just taking away all your stuff and starting over, starting fresh, feels almost relieving. I sometimes feel that way. I even feel that way. I rented this apartment a little bit too. It's a little more than I actually wanted to pay, but I thought, oh, well, having a nice quiet place is important. And I will say that's probably an area I would spend money on again, is a nice place, but I don't need to pay what I'm paying now. I could pay slightly less. And so next go around, so I'm going to negotiate for a lower rent if we decide to stay here, and or we'll end up moving. Even though moving does cost money, so I have to weigh the pros and cons of moving to a smaller place and the cost of that. But I moved to Hawaii too, and so it is a very expensive place to live. I do think there are ways to live well and free no matter where you live, on a tighter budget than maybe people are saying. Because over the last couple of years, especially the last 6 months, I've really started to become conscious of the marketing constantly in our faces 24/7. If you're on TikTok or any social media platform, including YouTube, you will see just like every third video is somebody selling something. And even if it's just normal content creators, right? A lot of content creators have to supplement their income with affiliate marketing, and there's no shade to that. If somebody wanted to pay me to, like, sell something really cool, I can't say I wouldn't do it. I'd like to think I wouldn't do it. I don't necessarily need the money, but I do think the amount of money that is coming in and the comfort that people feel feels different. I just recently got divorced. I have 2 kids. I am now like the primary person taking care of my kids in my household. And so I feel the pressure of being a single mom and kind of carrying the financial burden of their future and my future. And then also my aging parents who are both on Social Security, which is another story for another day. But I love frugality, minimalism content, slow living, documentary style filmmaking. I really aspire to make uh, beautiful videos like that someday. I have tried my hand at it here and there. My dad was a photographer too. I would love to take a course. I do not want to pay $40,000 to go back to college. I realize, like, I did college. I paid 100 grand, and I don't even use that because it was an indentured thing, right? I paid 100 grand and then I had to pay it back. So I had to go to work in a job that I didn't necessarily love. And I, like, a content creator that I follow was talking about, why do we feel beholden to the choices we made when we were 20 years old? Because we grow and change. And yes, I wanted to be a social worker and save the world when I was younger. And then I realized I needed to put my own oxygen mask on first before giving to others. So I got burnt out and needed nothing for a while. And I didn't do nothing. I actually worked harder than I've ever worked in my entire life because I raised 2 children largely in isolation. And through the pandemic and everything, away from family, I was in a controlling relationship, which was difficult. But that's another story for another day. I have a lot of videos on that. Feel free to check them out. I don't really love talking about divorce anymore, but it is a big part of my story, so it has to be mentioned, as well as it affects my financial present and my financial future. And at one point, pre-pandemic, I think our business was worth like $8 million, and now it's currently worth one. So when I got divorced and I sold my half to my ex, I didn't get very much. And I do have a fourplex in Florida, an Airbnb that I am in the process of getting registered and renting out. I may have some renters for February 1. They're on the fence. We'll see. If not, I know it's not meant to be, and more is coming my way. I'm an abundance person. I love to be happy, joyous, and free and live a peaceful life. And I make content about that. And I also know from my dreamers out there and from my lovely, sweet, beautiful beings that this world is not always made for people like you and I. And I think I found a lot of my people, especially on TikTok and YouTube. I think we're maybe like, I would say like 20% of us. I know not everybody's into minimalism and frugality content and less is more and um, anti-hustle culture, but we're out there. So this content is for you. And if you're thinking about it, I was a hustle culture mentality person for a long time. I mean, blood, sweat, and tears built a business, made a lot of money, and was able to semi-retire early. But I will say, work is always better when you don't need the money. However, I think living in fear that there won't ever be enough is also something that we have to talk about, because even when our business was worth $8 million, it never felt like enough. Like there isn't some magic number where security comes in and that's it. Because even if I have enough to retire now at 43 years old, for the rest of my life, things can happen, you know, losses happen, economies crash, So I'm not trying to say that to worry anyone. I'm just trying to say that at the end of the day, my security is going to come from my belief in myself and my abilities to manage my life well on my skills that I have. And I just want to say that out loud, that I also know one of the happiest times in my life was in graduate school when I had next to nothing and I lived in a studio apartment. I didn't watch television, I didn't consume social media, and I was out there. I was outside running, going to school, had a great friend group, really was just on fire for life. And so I also know that money doesn't buy happiness. There's no amount, like I said. Um, I remember listening to an interview of Morgan Housel, who wrote The Psychology of Money, and he said, the interviewer asked him, who do you think the happiest people in the world are? And he said, probably some middle class family in the middle of nowhere that has a bunch of friends and family nearby, and they just are surrounded by love, and they have enough. He's like, so you don't think it's the richest people in the world? And he said, absolutely not. And I think that shifted because there was a part of me, don't get me wrong, I've asked ChatGPT how to get to 10 million in 10 years multiple times. So that's possible, but it would take a concerted amount of taking on complexity. And right now, I think because I'm exiting survival mode from being separated and negotiating my divorce for 3 years to taking a little break. And I really want to focus on content creation. I want to focus on filmmaking. I want to use this damn drone that I've had for a year that I've been too scared because what if it breaks and it costs $500? I want to get out of that mentality. I've had this Yeti mic for I don't even know how long, and I cannot seem to figure out how to get it to work. I'm not tech savvy. I'm an elder millennial. Like I said, I'm from '83. But is it worth maybe hiring someone to come over and set it up? Yeah. Why am I like squeltering? What's the word? I'm missing a brain cell here. Squashing my dreams. I don't know. But I will say, if you like slow living content, if you like the idea of living happy, joyous, and free and not being afraid of whatever is going on, if you want to learn about investing, if you want to learn about Airbnb, if you want to learn about how I regulate my nervous system on a daily basis, if you want to learn about any of that stuff, or you just think it's fun to be here, please follow along for more. Like and subscribe.